Welcome back to Building Brevard. This is PJ McLaughlin. This is episode 4, and today I have the pleasure of hosting Nicole DeRoy from AR Homes, and it is AR Homes. You're one of my favorite people and one of my favorite builders, and probably the face of AR Homes. So welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. I think there's some confusion in the market. What is AR Homes? It's 2 initials. I mean, I like it because PJ. And
yeah, it's easy, right?
Easy.
AR Homes, so previously known as Arthur Rutenberg Homes, and we just kind of shortened the name, rebranded to AR Homes. But we've been in the industry for 70 years, so we actually just celebrated our 70th anniversary last year.
That's impressive. A home builder in the United States that has been around for 70 years. Interesting enough too, like I remember I was a weird kid that studied floor plans. And I remember like the first time I saw an Arthur Rutenberg floor plan, and it, like my head popped off a little bit, right? Like you walk in the door, beautiful, great room, 45-degree angle. And then I remember the gentleman that I was with when I saw the floor plan, he's like, do not steal AR floor plans because they will come after you.
It probably still holds true today.
Yes, very much so. So 70 years in the business, AR Homes, you are part of the local, right? There's a lot of different franchise, I guess you would call it?
So AR Homes is a franchise. It started in 1953 by Arthur Rutenberg. And he actually invested in 10 home sites in Clearwater, Florida, and it just kind of took off over the next...
I had no idea. In Florida.
In Florida. It started in Clearwater, Florida, yes. And that is where the headquarters is today. And it kind of took off. So by 1960, he was all up and down the coast, and I want to say by 1972 or 3, I should know this, he decided to... go into franchising. So, Yep, we are part of the local Brevard County franchise.
That's super cool. I didn't know that. Founded in Florida. How long have you been with AR? Your whole life?
5 years.
5 years?
Yes. I feel like it's been my whole life, but no, 5 years.
Yeah. I think anybody who knows the AR brand locally has seen you, right? Like you are, I make fun of it, right? You're the AR encyclopedia at this point. 5 years in, there's a lot of floor plans.
There's a lot, and I feel like every other month we're getting emails on new plans and new designs, and we're retiring this one, and here's another one. So it's even hard for me to keep up sometimes. So
for the consumer that's watching this, what's like the process with AR if they don't know?
So we are a custom home builder. So really the first step is to work on a design. We do have a portfolio of plans that if you go to our website, you'll see there's 70 plus floor plans just in Florida at this time. So usually we'll just kind of go through and, figure out what are you looking for? What are your must-haves? What don't you like about your current home? All of those things. And we find a plan that's pretty close to what they're looking for. And then we sit down with the architect and figure out what they want to change. So that process usually takes about 30 days or so. And while that's going on, I'm working on pricing for them, making sure we're keeping them in budget. And then after that, they're ready to sign a contract and then do the fun things like pick out countertops and
to some people that's fun.
Yeah.
To some people
that's fun for me.
Yes. I'm right there with you. Don't get me, but I know working in the industry and knowing you, like sometimes that is this.
It can be very overwhelming because you're picking out everything from, the obvious things like countertops and flooring, but what handle do you want to flush your toilet? Like all of these little details that you don't even think about.
Right. So you, to start the process, you find a floor plan that somewhat fits the lifestyle you're looking to you're looking to live in this house with, right? And then customize from there. I think important aspect too, when I'm looking at all of the builders in Brevard County, like when I go to customize that floor plan, you guys actually send it to corporate, right?
Yes.
Still do that?
Yeah, we send it to corporate. We have a team of about 40 designers and architects that work out of the Clearwater office, but we also have a designer that we hired here for our local office here in Brevard County. So actually most of the work now goes to her.
Oh, wow. So. Okay. Because I know in the past, I was amazed at, like, we started with a floor plan and then we're modifying it to fit them. And some of the, it's really hard to look at a floor plan and say, how am I going to make this work for their lifestyle, also be functional, also be beautiful. And I think that, to me, as I was thinking about AR homes, was the degree of separate, right? Like, hey, we want to kind of blow up this space and create this space. And your architects are amazing at really understanding, like, hey, that the way that you're thinking about it might not be the way that it would look as beautiful and functional, right? So
yes, yeah, exactly what you just said. We always say, like, function before beauty. So we make the floor plan functional, make sure it flows, make sure furniture scales properly. The space isn't going to feel like a bowling alley. We go through all of these things. And because a consumer, or even sometimes myself, I don't necessarily know those things. That's why we have the architects and designers to do this. Then once we do that, we go back and we make it pretty.
Right. Yeah. That is the, I always look for that degree of separation. And I think that is hands down, like, when you walk into an AR home, you just know, right? Like, you just feel it when you walk in the front door. It just
feels good. Yeah. Right. And I think touching on that same point is the fact that our architects work directly for us. They are completely invested in every single floor plan. Usually if you go to a custom home builder, you either have already hired an architect on your own and you're bringing it, or, maybe they're facilitating that meeting with an architect on your behalf. So, in the architect design, you give them your checklist of, these are the things I want, and they draw it for you, and then they give it to the builder, and the builder builds it for you. With us, it's everything's much more intertwined. The architect's there with the builder to make sure that things are, that is how I thought it was going to look, or that's not quite flowing like I thought it was on paper.
Right.
So, we can tweak things along the way.
Yeah. I'm not supposed to be biased on a building, Brevard. And yet you'll probably hear it a little bit in this, right? Like, so where do you guys sell primarily?
So for us, it'll be anywhere in Brevard County. Okay. The main community that we build in is Adelaide and Viera. But other than that, if you have a lot and you come to us, then, we can build on it as long as it's in Brevard County.
Okay, fantastic. What, we're filming this in early 2024. What does pricing look like? That's always the, like, oh, I walk into the model and I'm like, I can't really afford this. And people, right, like, so price point.
So I would say our homes start at about 1.2 million. I hate to say, like, price per square foot, because it just depends on, you can add value to a home and add expensive features in a home that doesn't necessarily add square footage, but I know that's how the consumers like to break things down. So I would say usually you'd be looking at anywhere between like $450 and $550 a square foot.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the price per square foot.
Yeah.
As soon as you include the top of the line appliance package, right? Like,
or you want 12-foot sliders and you want all of these things.
I want 14-foot sliders.
Yes. Yeah. We could do that.
Right. So we get through the process, and what's the design center is amazing that you guys have built, right? So you have a local design center. But I think the other thing that really separates you guys is the plan walkthrough, right? The meeting where we actually sit down and say, okay, this is our last chance to change anything about your home. And you sit down with Charlie, and this meeting, like, is amazing.
Yes.
Every time I leave one of these meetings, I'm like, that's who everybody should strive to be. So tell us about that meeting.
So that's what we call our plan review meeting, and that's after you've signed a contract and we've sent it off to the architect to get your full set of drawings. So you're looking at every space, every wall elevation, every detail. And Charlie, who is our building company president here in Brevard, personally walks through that plan with the customer. And he's looking at all of the details maybe you didn't necessarily think about, like which way do you want your door to swing, this, how wide do you want your hallways, like all of those little details that you don't always think about early in the process. And, just kind of, is there anything, maybe something changed in between when you signed a contract and now you need to add a whole other bedroom, so we'll go through and we do all of that.
Yeah, I mean that meeting is, first of all, the plans are as big as this table, right? So you're not like looking on your desktop and trying to zoom into a space. And the way in which you guys walk somebody through the house, right? Like the way in which the flow of the house and the details are really important, right? Like a left hand in swing versus a right out swing, and you're like, Charlie, what the heck are you talking about? Like, and then your hands are full of groceries, and you're like, that's why we had this meeting, right? But I think it's also too, like he really gets into some of those details where it's, what are the heights of certain things, and how does that look, kind of uniform? Well, I want this feel in this room and this feel in this room, and he does a really good job of trying to incorporate all of that. Right?
Yeah, he really tries to figure out how that customer lives. What garage, or, a lot of times people have, split garages, 2 on one side, 2 on the other. Which one's going to be your primary garage? This should be because it's closer to the kitchen, it's closer to the pantry. And, just trying to figure out, who's going to use this bathroom? Is it going to be your guest bathroom? Is it mainly going to be your kids using the restroom? All of those things, just trying to figure out how people are living so he can provide, the best guidance on, what he feels should be changed or, stay the same.
Yeah. And as an agent, funny enough, we clients hate when I tell them, like, you're building your dream house, and at some point you're going to sell your dream house.
Yes.
And Charlie actually does a really good job of kind of bringing them. I think you and Charlie, right? Like you guys do a really good job of kind of bringing them back to, I know you say this is your forever home, but if you do this or you do Y, it might change your resale value. And I think that's super important for the consumer to like. My wife tells me, stop selling somebody's dream home. I'm like, at some point we're going to sell it, and we need to think about if we blow up this space and we're building it just for your lifestyle, down the road, it could present a challenge for somebody else.
Yes, exactly. We would love to think that this is going to be your forever home, and maybe it is, but I do think it's important to consider resale. And while you are building a custom home and we want to build it to the way you live, we also want you to consider things like, you can't just have 2 bedrooms. Like I know in an office and about you should probably have at least 4 bedrooms. You should probably have at least a 3-car garage. We kind of go through, all of those things.
I want an 18-car garage.
Yes.
Which actually brings me to a good, what's the, I don't want to say the coolest, but give us something that is like, hey, I had fun with this customer, getting them through the process, and it was really cool or unique, or I don't know what word you'd use with it.
So that's a tough one because we meet a lot of people, but there's one we're working on right now that's they do a lot of entertaining, and they are starting with the current model that we have in Adelaide, which is the Queensland model, but they're like really blowing it up. And the game room is something that's really, really important to them because they entertain a lot. And their game room, it's like this massive 2,500 square foot game room that has like a bar area that is like an indoor-outdoor bar. So it opens up across. It has space for a pool table, has a movie theater in it. I mean, it's just like the coolest game room like I've ever seen.
Yep.
And we all keep saying, we can't wait till they build this house so we could all go over there and play games and hang out. Like it's going to be really incredible.
You almost have to wait until they move in to really, like, that's the problem with game rooms. It's like, oh, this is going to be such a beautiful space. And then like the fun things come in and
But even that, we had to go through a list of like, what are the things you're going to have in this game room? A pool table, we're going to have 2 arcade machines. We want a card table. Like, what are all the machines you're going to use or have in this room? And then our architect actually placed them all in the room to make sure we had space, make sure the pool table had clearance, all of these things. Because the last thing you want is to just build this massive game room and then nothing.
Right. And that's something properly. You guys do really well. When you're looking at a 2-dimensional drawing and you're like, how does all my stuff fit in here? Like in your process, you actually do place a bed, a nightstand, a dresser in the rooms, and then game rooms and so on, right? Yeah. Like it is really well thought out. I was talking to somebody recently, and I was like, I was talking to a dentist, and I was like, think about how much your industry has changed over 50 years, and the home building process no, it hasn't necessarily improved drastically over 50 years. I would argue to say AR because it's just those little nuances, right? Like you start to incorporate some, like this was years ago where you guys had a walkthrough of models, right? Like you could actually digitally, for the people that are like, spatial perception is not my thing. Like, can you show me, like, I remember clients driving all over the state of Florida. Like, I just want to go see this model so that I could like walk in it and feel it. Like, here's a digital walkthrough. It's the same. Like for me, it's like, oh yeah, this totally works, right? But for them, they had to actually go see it. So
and actually, piggybacking on that, something newer and even cooler concept that we're working on. It's like in the pilot phase right now is the AR theater. It will be located in Clearwater, but clients that are currently under design can go make an appointment. We'll go through there, and they can walk through their home. Like we'll be able to put it on, and it's a huge room, bigger than the room we're sitting in. And as they walk forward, they're going into their foyer, and then they can turn, and it's like all around them. It kind of reminds me of like the Sphere in Vegas, So now. Wait.
So do you wear, and this is totally down like a rabbit hole in my alley. Like, do you wear like Oculus to do this, or it's like projected?
It's projected.
Yeah. So I saw somebody on one of the social, right, where they put your floor plan on the floor.
Yes.
You go walk into a big white room, and that's super cool. But this is like everything.
It's similar to that. It's a little different. So yeah, it's everything. It's not necessarily, well, maybe in the long run, we'll be able to put in like your specific countertops and everything, but really like the short-term goal is just to walk through the floor plan itself, just to kind of get a feel of, what, the space, is it big enough? Like how does it flow? Cause like you said, you're looking down at like a 2-dimensional drawing, but what does that look like in real life? So right now, what is there is just current model homes. So instead of driving all over the state of Florida, you can just go there and you can view different model homes.
Yeah.
So
that's super cool.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool.
And I want to see what 2.0 and 3, like.
Yeah. Like the different phases, like as it,
Right. Like I just want to put on the Oculus and be able to walk around, and you actually place all of, like, designer comes in and says, here's all of your furniture, and I can.
Yeah, that would be the long-term goal. That would be awesome.
Well, I mean, I think out of all of the builders, AR will be on the forefront of that. Pause. Okay.
I'm getting a water.
We got 25 minutes.
See, 15 minutes already?
Yeah. Covered a lot of ground.
How long are the podcasts normally? Like 30 minutes, maybe?
I don't know. He's the expert.
Yeah, 30.
Yeah. All right. So switching gears a little bit, what do you love most about your job?
Well, I love obviously meeting all different kinds of people, but my favorite thing is going through the process and seeing every person's vision, come to life. I know that sounds like a little cliche, but like everybody's different. Like what I may want and like may be different than what you may like in a home. And
100%.
My color palette might be totally different from yours, but kind of walking them through the process. Because I meet them at the very beginning before they even know really necessarily what they want to do. And so, everything from the structural, and then they move on to the next phase and they're picking colors, and then going and visiting the house when it's under construction, just like watching it come to life it's really cool.
Yeah. So I was in new home sales for a little while, and you never forget, like the slab is poured and everybody's happy and they're like, this house is way too small. Yes. The slab looks
we
tiny.
Hear that all the time. Yeah.
And then like the walls go up and you're like, this house is still way too small.
Yeah.
And then it's like sheetrock and paint. And then they're like, oh, okay, I can kind of start to see it. Like, wow, this bedroom is actually ginormous, but I was freaking out for 2 months because it looked like it was the size of my kid's bedroom, right? Like, I screwed up somehow, right? Like the emotions of building a house are, well, I think for good reason. One of those life, like, I was reading Unreasonable Hospitality. He's the author of a book that #1 restaurant in the U.S. and then became #1 restaurant in the world. and we got a private meet and greet with him, and he was like, you understand, like, I get them for dinner. So for like in a high-end restaurant, I might get them for 3 hours, and I try and make this experience amazing, right? It's unreasonable hospitality. We have them sometimes for like 24 months.
Oh yeah, I was going to say like 2 years. Yeah.
Highs and lows and you know, everything in between, because it's where they're going to make, that's their next chapter, right? It's where memories are made, and what like a better industry than to like truly build something for somebody that they love, right? Like absolutely love.
Yeah, it's exciting. Charlie always likes to say it's like a marriage, like, you know, because you're like with these people for at least 2 years and even beyond, because, you know, they're in the neighborhood, especially if they're building in Adelaide. You know, as much as we don't like things to come up, sometimes warranty issues come up, so they're calling the office. So, I mean, you have like long-term relationships with your clients, and it's kind of like a marriage. So, and there's highs and lows. And
I had a client tell me one time, like, we're getting divorced. And I was like, what are you talking about? And they're like, literally, this has been like 18 months of a marriage. You've been there every day for me, at nights, weekends, doesn't matter. And then like, you're out of my world because my house is finished. And I think that's the hard part, right? Like, it's like, okay, you're now off to school or something. You're going away to college. It is this true separation after we've spent so much time.
It really is. It's like you get used to talking to people, you know, every week, every day, depending on, you know, what phase of the project you're in. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, well now they're in, and I'm glad they're happy, but I kind of miss talking to them.
Yeah. I'm not going to ask you to answer this question, but I just want the camera to capture your facial expressions, right? Like, how many times husband and wife disagree on something, right? Like, we deal with that. Like, it's you sometimes get a very inside look into what is happening, right? Like,
yes, so you definitely, it happens more often than maybe one might think.
I had a client once tell me, you're going to drive my wife home because I'm leaving. And he literally got in the car and left her with me. And I was like, well, I guess I'm taking you home because you guys are in a tiff, right? Like,
well, I haven't had that, so.
Like,
but yes.
This is awkward. I'm not trained in marriage counseling, and now I have to drive you home for 15 minutes back to your house and pray that your husband's not yelling at me for actually driving you home. You know, like, I was like, what do I do?
We've had people, I can think of a specific couple of clients that they disagree on something. You know, they have different tastes, different, you know, they might sometimes even have different budgets. Like, one was okay with spending this, the other's not okay with spending that. And, you know, they'll call me after a meeting and say, actually, can you just add that in? Don't tell my husband. I'm like, I think he's going to know that we added it in. Like, I don't want to be that one that, I'm like, I think you need to just tell him that you want to add in this thing.
Right.
But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, that's funny too, because I forgot to talk about this point that I think is different about AR, probably because you're a national franchise type. Like, the first time I got a proposal for an AR home, like, package, it was 50-ish pages. And I'll never forget, like, I freaked out for probably a year telling everybody this, like, when you walk into AR Homes and they tell you the faucet is going to be, you know, $490.18, it is literally to the penny. Like,
yes,
it's not like, oh yeah, we're going to round this one up and round this. Like, being in the industry is like, oh yeah, that's $500. Like, somebody would just throw out that's $1,000, that's 10 grand, right? And no, when you get your proposal, it's to the penny.
Yes.
Like,
it's
there's no question. Like, did somehow you misquote this? Like, no, it's to the penny. I've never seen another builder that broke it down to the penny.
Yeah.
Like,
and we always start off, like, they come into our model, we start off like, my initial quote's going to be everything that you see. Just so it's easier to start with everything you see. And then we can go from there and change things, remove things, add things. But as we're going through that process, it's what you said, you know, I want a different faucet, so I'm going to credit you $498.36 for this faucet, and then charge you $494.13 for this faucet, and then they'll see the delta of $2. But but they'll see both.
$2.11.
Yeah, sorry.
Like, don't forget the pennies. It's $1 million, but we're going to go all the way drill down to the second decimal.
Yeah, we go through all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I was like, okay, 99 cents. Nope.
Yeah.
It literally.
Yeah.
What, where'd you come from before? Like, I've only known you as the face of AR, so.
So I was in the mortgage industry before. I was a manager of a mortgage department at a local financial institution.
Mortgages, custom home sales, pretty close, easy transition.
Yeah. I don't know. I would say going from being in a management role over mortgages, which, as you know, there's a ton of regulations and just things are constantly changing, to going into a non-management role and you're kind of just responsible for yourself. I mean, we have like a small team, but for the most part, you're just responsible for yourself and other people can worry about the building code regulations. I don't need to worry about that. That's actually been a really nice change. So
do your job, not have to worry about everything. And like looking back, how long did it take for you to actually be comfortable as the head salesperson for AR Homes? Like,
goodness, it was probably a couple of years, like, to really just be confident in what I said and knowing that sometimes I might say the wrong thing, but, you know, I have a good relationship with my clients that I can be like, hey, I messed up. This is what it, you know, and, you know, having Charlie to, you know, be there and back me up, knowing that I had him, you know, that kind of helped. So,
yeah, you guys are a good 1-2 duo.
Yeah.
Well, and I was, as I was thinking about it too, right? Like I think your approach to the process is different than what I've been in a lot of model homes and talked to a lot of model agents, right? Like your approach is vastly different, right? Like you're not there to oversell and underdeliver, right? Like I've witnessed it time and time again where your style is like, we're going to get this as close to perfect as possible. But if I screw up, like I'm going to own it. But I'm also not going to promise something that I know a month later is going to come back and burn me, right? Like, oh yeah, that's like 10 grand. Oh, I misquoted that as 15.
Yeah.
Well, Nicole, like 5 grand. Now I got to pull 5 grand out of somewhere else. Like,
I always like joke around that I'm like the worst salesperson in the world because I am like very particular about like what I say to the clients, what, you know, what they hear, what they want, like, you know, are you sure you want to do that? Like, I don't know, it might not be the best buy right now. Like, I just, you know, where other people be like, just have them buy it. If they want to buy it, then just sell it to them.
Right.
Like,
if money is no object, then sell. And you're like, well, are you sure?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you really don't, like, there's just a lot of nuances, right, that I think you do differently where you're protecting the brand as well as the client kind of equally versus like just sell. Like, we'll just figure it out later and ask for forgiveness, not for permission, right? Like,
well, and I always say like Brevard County, like it is a small town. Like you're going to run into your clients in Publix and, you know, at, you know, Target or wherever, you're going to run into them. I don't want to like have to hide when I see them. Like I want to be able to go up to them and say, hi, how's everything going? You know, how's the house?
Right.
Like, I want to be confident and, you know, them feeling like we delivered a really good product.
Yeah. You always hesitate though, like how's the house?
Sometimes, yes, because sometimes I know some things. Yes.
While we're at Publix, let me go through the 14 things that I believe should have been.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, it's so funny because I think the general consumer, we have lived in this society of what I call microwave society, where like Amazon can build me a house, so just step out of the way, right? Like it has to be perfect, and at the end of the day, there's still humans in their trade building your home to the best of their ability, right? Like your trades are arguably some of the best, right? And you guys push that as part of it. But yeah, it reminds me too, like I always told people, like they build this beautiful home and you go to visit their beautiful home for the first time. And the first thing they tell you, here's the 3 things I wish I had done differently. Yes. And I was like, you have a beautiful home. Like stop. Because if you're doing it with me, you're doing it with your friends
course,
and family, right? Like they walk in this house, like, oh, I wish I'd, like, there is no such thing as a perfect house. Because I've asked every builder, like, you have as a builder, you have the means to build exactly what you want. And every president of every building corporation, company, small, large, whatever, is like, yeah, I still didn't nail it.
There's always something. There's always something that they would have done differently.
Right.
Yeah.
Always. Yeah. And human nature for most people is to regurgitate that the first time somebody, I'm like, let them enjoy your beautiful, like, your home is stunning. Let them take it in. And then maybe, like, after dinner, if you're having them over for dinner, now we can start to break down the house a little bit. Right. Because the challenge, too, is, like, some people get, like, if I walk into somebody's beautiful home and they tell me all the things that are wrong with it or that they wish I'm like, you have a beautiful, like, just appreciate it.
Yes.
Like, let's appreciate the positive side, not necessarily the negative side.
Yeah, I always say, like, well, what's your favorite thing? Tell me about your favorite thing in the house. And then, kind of get them thinking a little more.
What other good questions you ask somebody when you're going through the process?
So in the early stages of the process, we ask, what is it that you love about your current house that you definitely want to...
That's why I'm here.
Usually there's a couple things.
Absolutely nothing. It was a production builder, and I hate it.
What are the things you hate or you dislike about your current home? If money was no object, what are the things that you would have in your home? What are the things that these are deal breakers? You have to have these in the home. So just kind of figuring out the wants versus needs.
That's where I always like. There is definitely the buyer a lot of times puts both of those together. No, I want and need these 100 things. And it's like, it really is our job to let's sit down, discuss it. Like if we're standing up, this is not the right time to talk about how I'm going to separate your wants versus your needs. So how much longer in terms of construction in Adelaide?
Probably, I would say, well, there's still an additional phase that hasn't even been released yet that, if I had to guess, is at least 18 months out. Okay. Just because usually, so Vieira Company is the developer. Usually, though, they're going to want to see, the latest phase, get pretty much sold out before they release another one. So with that being said, I would say there's probably at least another 6 to 7 years before all construction it's done.
That's a long runway. Yeah. That phase is we have both talked about, like, if I was to live, this is the street that I would live on in Adelaide, right? Like it is. I think there's a reason they
saved it for last.
Other than the most wanted pie lot in Brevard County. I don't know. I haven't been here that long, but I think that you know what I'm talking about. The one that everybody put their name in for. Like, how long was that list? I'm out of curiosity.
Oh, it was long until people realized how much the lot was going to cost, and then it got a little shorter. But I want to say, I don't even know. I mean, it was a long list. Burton, so like, any builder, and some of people put their name on every list just in case, depending on the order that you're going to get called. But an AR home is going on it, so.
Oh. Big win for AR. There's no competition. There's a little competition. We are competitive people. We've talked about that, course. Right? Like, so if you don't know, there is the lot that we're talking about. There's a cul-de-sac, and it looks over, what is that, like 440 acres or something like that? That Lake Adelaide. I mean, it's a massive lake. It's over 400 acres of lake, and there's a peninsula. And so there was like essentially one lot direct in the center and then one on each. And you sold, right?
There's 3 on the cul-de-sac, but the one that like everybody wanted was the one in the middle. Because no matter where you were in your backyard, just the way the lot was shaped, you just had like the longest views of Lake Adelaide. Right. So.
Yeah. It was funny. Everybody like... I don't want to build a big house, but I want that lot.
So pretty much with the exception of the first few, every AR home in Adelaide I sold. And and then
too bad it can't be
I'll be there. I know. It's like, I would have started like 1 year sooner. Yeah, so that's been since 2018. So another 5 or 6 years.
I got another good one.
Okay.
Just thinking through it. So interesting enough, I hear it all the time from the real estate community that I'm a real estate agent. I can sell new construction, right? Like most agents who sell resale believe they can step into a model home and they're like, this is amazing. People come to you and you just sell, right? Like, what do you say to that?
I would say it's not as easy as it sounds because you only have that one product to sell. You know, so you can't, if somebody doesn't want to wait 2 years to build, we have a lot of people relocating to the area. I can't say, oh, well, then I have this like great resale for you.
Right.
You know, over here, I have to like try to convince them why it is worth waiting 2 years to build this house. And there's a lot of work. Like you're involved with these people for 2 years. That being said, I've never done general real estate, so I can't really. I'm sure there's things that would make general real estate harder than new home construction, but you know, I don't know. I just know that it's not as easy as some people make it sound. It's like you're with these people for 2 years,
right? And
if there's an issue, they're going to come back to you because you're the salesperson and you're the one that they have the relationship with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think a lot of agents think until they get into a situation, and then it's like, oh yeah, it's not just open the door and people are lining up at the door to sign contracts, right?
No, we have days where nobody comes in, and most people, at least I hate that because I'm like, my mind is going like where I could be doing all of these other things. I could be going, you know, here and, you know, meeting people or going to this, you know, this realtor's office but no, we have to be there because the model has to be open.
Right.
So you have to be very, very self-motivated too, because there are days where nobody comes in walks through the door.
You could just sit there and scroll social, and you're like, well, that was a waste of 8 hours.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't see anybody. Nobody called me. You know, I think too, how many days out of the year is your model closed?
4. So like the major holidays, Thanksgiving, Easter, Christmas. Yeah.
New Year's Day.
Recently we've been closed. The last 2 years we've closed New Year's Day. So
right. So you get So yeah, I'm an agent that says, oh, I work 7 days a week, but do you really work 7? Do you really only take 5 days off work? Right. Yeah. Like, I tell people all the time, like it is an open house 7 days a week, 360 days out of the year. Like
it is. Yes.
It is a absolute grind to work new construction, right? Because, you know, we used to, I kind of started playing this game when I was working some retail jobs, and then we continued it as our team was selling new construction, right? Like, okay, they just parked in the parking lot. They actually gonna like do something? Like, do you believe that they're actually coming here to just shop for design ideas, right? Like, number one question, hey, what brought you in? Oh, I'm here to look at your beautiful model.
I'm remodeling my kitchen, so I just wanted to get design ideas.
I'm going to every model in Brevard County, and I'm going to take up the time of the salesperson and just talk shop, right?
Yeah.
Like,
which on some days you're like, I'm excited. Like, yay, somebody's here. I get to talk to somebody.
You're not a customer. I don't care. Please talk to me. Please stay here for another hour. Yeah. I don't miss the days of like, I'm just here for design ideas. Like, do you like this house? Nope, hate it. But I'm still here for design ideas. Like, this is not at all the style I was going for. But you guys have done a really good job with, you know, the products that I've seen from like Wyndham to Charlotte to Summer Lakes to even the park, which is up front, right? Like, so there is a section of Adelaide that is not the big lots and, you know, really kind of figuring out how the last model you guys had in the parks was the Brisbane.
The Brisbane, yes.
Brisbane, like one of my favorite houses because it actually, right, like felt like a 3,500 square foot home, but it wasn't, right? So it's all that scale.
Yes.
And really figuring out, like, I was like, hey, sign me up for this size, right?
Yeah, they do a really good job with making homes feel like bigger than they really are. And that's from the foyers are always usually really wide, and then you look out across glass all the way across the back of the home, so it's like your eye just continues into the pool area. So the spaces always feel a lot bigger than they are.
Yeah, I think we're blessed in Florida that we can bring in some of that outdoor, right? Like, really hard if there's snow and your pool is frozen to say, oh yeah, let's go look at.
Yeah, it's not as exciting to look
But
at.
I remember too, goodness, you used to have the book of all the floor plans that was like every year when it came out, I'm like, first thing, and I had a copy like at home on my desk in my car. I'm weird floor plans, but like I remember years ago, like it was a 45 wide house that you guys had in a book. So it was like, here's AR who's building something that is like not what you expect in Adelaide, right? Like it looked more of like city living type setup, but still like beautiful, and then figure out how to find the floor plan, digital floor plan, all that good stuff. So, all right, guys, thank you so much. You can find Nicole in Adelaide. That is the northernmost community in Viera, right? So off Stadium Parkway. And if you haven't gone into an AR home, I highly recommend it. Right now it's the Queensland, which the entire back of the house is glass. Even if you're not in the market to find a new home, you should just go and look to see like what a 2020, it was built in 2023 floor plan of just pure glass really looks like. And thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.